I'll let you in on a little open secret in the local auto industry. You do not pick a fight with the Toyota Vios. That's why many car makers are very crafty in marketing to try and carve out a niche for their subcompact models. Well, Geely, on the other hand, said,
"Let's do this, Leroy Dragons!"
Oh my god, he just ran in.
If you've played World of Warcraft, then you know exactly what that is. That was the moment when a guy charged into a room against all odds and, well, died. The opponent was just too strong. But Geely, I think, has prepared a lot more for this challenge with the Emgrand. That's what they do with a lot of their other models like Coolray, Azkara, and Okavango. But first things first, the Emgrand started life as a separate little sub-brand of Geely. But now they've brought it back into the fold and used the name as their B-segment sedan. If you're thinking, hey, this looks like a Volvo, well, don't worry, I agree with you 100%. It's as if Geely pulled out a shrink ray, pointed it at the S80, and then pew! Out came the Emgrand. Volvo can't really complain after all because, well, Geely is the boss. But damn, this car really looks good with the shape, the profile, the wheels, the headlights, the color, and even those really nice taillights. And you'll get a nice kick when you start pressing the buttons on your key to get those to light up. Now I can go on and on about the specs of the vehicle, like the sunroof, four-wheel disc brakes, the engine, which is a 1.5-liter non-turbo, and the CVT, that's a first for Geely in the Philippine market. But you can consult a brochure for that, or you can refer to the video of the walk-around of this that we did a few weeks ago. We'll have it in the description below. But some of the things I noticed right here off the bat, and what you should really look for when you're evaluating a car, are indicators of quality. Things like the panel gaps, or the alignment of the doors. So if you have a very straight line here, if they all match, that is a sign of a good vehicle. It's much more indicative rather than just closing and opening the doors, which, by the way, the sound of the closing of this door is really good. But what's also important here is the platform. This uses the BMA platform, the same as the Coolray. Actually, it's an adaptation of that platform because this one has a key difference, 2 inches. So in the Coolray, you have the wheelbase at 2,600 millimeters. This one is 2,650, so it's 50 millimeters more, about 2 inches more. Now, it may not sound like a big difference, but when you look at the other vehicles in the category, the Vios, 2,550. The City, 2,600. The Almera is 2,620. So this is one of the longest, actually, it's longer than many of those when it comes to the wheelbase. To many of us, the wheelbase is just another number in the brochure of a vehicle. But in the Emgrand, it's actually a bit more important because having a longer wheelbase means they can move the rear seat back. If you notice, rear seats of any 4-door or 5-door passenger car are usually defined by the position of the axle and the wheel well. So the further you can move that back, the more legroom you can have. It also has one more effect when it comes to the ride and the drive. So let's go out and drive it. Chinese cars have been the butt of jokes when it comes to interior quality. That's a given. But Geely has been impressing us consistently for the last almost 3 years now. And looking at this one, this is no different. I mean, nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. Everything looks well put together. The materials are quality. The touch points are soft. The plastics, they do not shine like a cheap quality plastic. I mean, it's a very, very good, very high-grade interior. White can be a very fussy color to maintain for the interior. So you have to kind of make sure that your pants there's no dirt on it when you sit down. But nevertheless, blue and white, it's a very, very sharp color combination for an interior. And not something we see too often. Incidentally, blue and white, those are colors at AutoIndustriya.com. So, I've also noticed that many of you have been commenting are not subscribed yet, so tap that sub button and tap that like button for me. If you don't like the video, well, tap that dislike button twice. Now, Geely clearly thought out the cabin of this vehicle very well. I mean, there's a big pad here where I can put my wallet, I can put my little flashlight, keys. There's also a ledge right above it for my phone, and it's right next to the USB charging port. This one does not have a wireless charger though, but we can't really expect that at the price point yet. What it does have is a little hook here by the passenger knee. That's good for like handbags and such if you have a date or if you're bringing home some takeout. The word I would use to describe this interior is streamlined, because everything just looks sleek, everything looks very well thought out. Your ignition button is right next to the AC controls. They go very well together. On the left, you have the headlamp leveler. Yes, this one does have a headlamp leveler. And the trunk release button. Everything just looks very well thought out in terms of ergonomics, and that's always a good thing. The Emgrand Premium has two screens. The first one is right here. Instead of a normal type of gauge with a multi-info display in the middle, the whole thing is a multi-info display. It's a whole screen. And the tachometer and the speedometer appears to have been inspired by a turbine-like design. There's a digital readout for the RPM and the speed. There's also the usual information like fuel economy, your trip, and your odometer, so on and so forth. But the unusual thing here is that this one has TPMS, or the tire pressure monitoring system, and it shows up on a graphic that appears to be a Coolray, not an Emgrand. Strange, but no matter, I appreciate the information because it takes out the guesswork for when you have to add some more air into your tires. I mean, that's the only thing free you can get at a gas station nowadays. And speaking of free, the horn is too, and it sounds really good. The other screen is this thing right here. It's a 12.3-inch unit diagonally, and it sticks up from the dashboard. But the actual screen itself, the touch screen, is only about 8 inches because the borders are populated by buttons like power, tel, mode, back, volume, so on and so forth. It has Bluetooth, it has a USB port. Sound quality is really good, and there's even a nice little equalizer that you can play with to tune the sound to your liking. The infotainment unit is actually one of the major criticisms that many reviewers have of the Emgrand. For one, it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so you have to use an app. Second is that Geely intended this to be the central control unit for several functions in the vehicle that would normally have its own control panel or button. For instance, if you want to open the sunroof, press here. Oh, nothing there. There's no control panel for the sunroof there. If you look down here, there's no control panel or buttons for the drive modes of the system. So think Eco, Comfort, and Sport. There are no buttons here. Instead, it's all in here. While some see that as a drawback, I think Geely was being very, very smart because each car represents decisions and compromises. And so long as the decision-making process is good and the intent is good, what you can come up with is a happy compromise. What Geely wanted to do was to give their customers more features. Things like traction control, of course, the ABS, those are normal. Front, side, and curtain airbags. They wanted to give them a reverse camera, backup sensors. They wanted to give them an electronic parking brake, auto brake hold, cruise control, sunroof, power adjustable driver's seat. They wanted to give them everything, including the TPMS system, power mirror fold. I mean, there's so much stuff in this vehicle, including remote start and a remote trunk release. All those features I mentioned cost quite a bit of money when it comes to the parts and the production process. So that's why car makers have these tricks by centralizing everything down here to reduce the wiring and reduce the buttons all around the vehicle. That's why they save a bit more money when it comes to removing the sunroof panel, removing the buttons here, or omitting the button for the trunk release on the actual trunk. It's not too different from when we made the big switch from Nokias and Blackberries to iPhones and Samsungs. I mean, would you want an old school numpad on a modern smartphone now? On paper, the engine seems underwhelming. It's not a 1.5 liter turbo that really spoiled us when it came out in the Coolray, and it's got a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. This one has a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder, no turbo, just over 100 horsepower, and instead of a DCT, it's got a CVT. But the powertrain combo is proving to be better than I expected. It does not feel like a slouch at all. If anything, it feels a bit sprightly for a non-turbo 1.5. The CVT is good. It's not outstanding because, no CVT is outstanding anyway. But what it is also smooth and very efficient. Like in town, I was getting around 10.4 kilometers per liter, and on the highway, it was 19.2 kilometers per liter. I mean, given today's fuel prices, I can't really complain about that at all. What is really reassuring about the Emgrand is the rigidity of the vehicle. If you remember my video on the T-Cross, when you approach a ramp or a speed bump at an angle, the vehicle twists and make noise. In this one, there's absolutely no sound because like here, speed bump, tall one. No sound at all from the body, the suspension, no creaking from the interior body panels, and that is a good thing. It really speaks well of the quality and the strength of the frame of this. Now remember when I mentioned the importance of the wheelbase, there's also another effect beyond just the extra legroom in the back. And that is when it comes to the ride quality and the manners of the vehicle on the road. Because in a short wheelbase vehicle, like let's say a hatchback, the front suspension, when it hits a bump, doesn't have as much time to settle down before the rear suspension hits that very same bump. So what you get is a vehicle that shakes quite a bit more. You'll notice it when you observe, let's say, a short hatchback on EDSA. It's going to be bouncing around all over the place. I mean, that's just the norm of that kind of body style and that wheelbase. In a longer wheelbase car, it's more stable, it's more comfortable, because the front suspension has a bit more time to settle down. So what you get is it's already stabilized before the rear hits it, so it becomes a bit more comfortable, a bit of a nicer ride. And coupled with the suspension manners of the Emgrand, that's a good thing. It's going to be a very comfortable car, and it actually is. And honestly, I think Geely came out strong when it came to the fundamentals of a comfortable, everyday economy car. So now for the drawbacks. The first, no Android Auto, no Apple CarPlay. I mean, come on, Geely, you can do better than that, because a lot of your customers do want that feature in their vehicles. But you can use an app if you want connectivity beyond Bluetooth and mirror it on that main screen. It can be a bit buggy, but it's still quite useful. The other thing is with the seat comfort for the front passengers, for the driver and the front passenger. It's a bit on the firm side, and personally, I still think the Almera has the best seat in the class. The other thing, the electronic power steering. There's a little hum when you turn it from the center line. So that one, it's minor, but it's there. Now, a lot of you commented in my last video of the Emgrand why I wasn't mentioning rivals like the MG5 or the Chang'an Alsvin when I was doing the walk around with the features and such. And my answer is simple. I think the Emgrand and Geely in general has already transcended the notion and the managed expectations of Chinese cars. The way they built this vehicle, I think they've already transcended those notions and are going for the main rivals, meaning Almera, City, and even the Vios. Now, if Geely wants to put this against the Vios head-to-head, I think they stand a better than 32.33% chance of actually making it. For 908,000 pesos, would I recommend this vehicle? You bet.